And good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be joined today by the head baseball coach at UMass Dartmouth, Bob Prince. Bob is preparing for, believe it or not, on a snowy day, Bob is preparing for another season. The Corsairs, unfortunately, a great season cut short last year, 9-1 start, cut short by, unfortunately, the pandemic, but very much looking forward to the spring season upcoming. And I'm pleased to be joined by Bob today. Coach, welcome. It's a pleasure to talk to you as always.
And right back at you. Always enjoy it.
I appreciate it. My name is Jim Sevia. I'm the Director of Athletic Communications, for those of you who don't know. We're actually going to talk about something today, Bob, that is not about baseball. And it's about life. And it's about an experience that you had a couple of weeks ago that is so incredible, and the emotions that you felt and continue to feel nearly 2 weeks afterward are ones that I think our viewers are going to find both wrenching, fascinating, and just as emotional, and hopefully the message that you have to share will resonate with others going forward. I want to set the stage. Coach Prince's son, Harry, is a member of an AEU travel program, and Harry's basketball team was participating in a tournament in State College, Pennsylvania, at Penn State, over Super Bowl weekend. And I want you to take it from here, because the story, Harry's team was playing a game against a team. It was a team from New York, from I believe Central New York, and a young man on the other team named Dante Green. You noticed something very wrong with Dante during the middle of a play, after a play, and I want to set the stage and have you talk about what happened at that point when you saw Dante experiencing something that was very unnormal.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's obviously when, it's a little bit different when you're watching these kids play with masks on. You can always see a kid trying to sneak a breath, get some relief from the mask. However, it seemed Dante was struggling a bit more, and you could kind of see it not just in that, but in his legs as well. Anyway, my eyes were actually on him because my son was covering him. So I was kind of naturally looking that way. And he just, mid-play collapsed. I assume most, like myself, thought it was, he had passed out, due to heat, whatever. Obviously at that point in time, the coach, his parents ran over to him. It became pretty evident that it wasn't the case that he had just passed out. He was not moving. Crowd kind of gathered around him, and I walked over to see what was going on, and then also to find my son. To make sure that he was okay. And I got there, and there was one of the parents of his team was kneeling next to him, and she asked if anybody knew CPR and first aid. And so I did. I'm trained. We get trained by our training staff here at UMass Dartmouth, and certified, and so I raised my hand. I said, I know first aid CPR. And she said, can you please come down? And so I knelt down next to her, or across from her. And she kind of whispered to me, I can't find a pulse. And can you find one? And at that time, I checked his wrist. I checked his neck. I couldn't find a pulse. Never had to try to find a pulse on somebody before, except for myself. So I wasn't sure if I was doing it properly. if I was missing something, but it became pretty clear that, you know, to her and I, that there potentially was no pulse at this point. We decided that it was best to roll him over to find out if we detected breathing. You know, prior to this, she had already called for 911 for somebody to, you know, to get 911 or to call 911. When we got Dante over, you know, kind of put my head by his ear, my ear by his mouth, and just was trying to check for breath, looking at his chest. There was nothing there. And, you know, it was at that point that she and I looked at each other, and it's kind of like, look, I think we need to start CPR here. Never having done anything like this before, it was a challenge in the sense of, you know, when you're in a sterile environment, you know, working with a dummy and having people help you through or direct you through the process, you kind of know what to do at what stage. The initial giving of the CPR was really a challenge for me and her as to, is this what we really need to do at this point in time? Are we going to do more harm than good? All those questions were running through my head. That being said, knowing that the longer we deliberate and debate this process, you know, if CPR is in fact what's needed, the worse it's going to be for him, as time is of the essence, obviously. Anyway, we started CPR, and she and I would switch off. Luckily, there was an AED in the facility. They brought that over, and we, like I said, we were able to, you know, administer that to him. The initial time that we did it, like I said, is when it really hit me as well, that this is, you know, this is the real deal here. You know, it assesses the situation in terms of pulse, etc., and administers a shock if there obviously is no pulse. And you know, when we heard it, you know, clear us from any contact of him, and then say administering shock, you know, we knew this is obviously a dire situation here. It administered the shock. It didn't work. In terms of it didn't work, it didn't you know, regain his pulse or help him regain his pulse. So continued CPR. While we were doing this is probably about 5 minutes in. Continuing CPR, it administered another shock, which did not take as well, and continued on with CPR. And I'd say we were probably doing that for the better part of 10 to 12 minutes or so. You know, paramedics did arrive, and we actually continued CPR while they were setting up. They had their own AED machine. They hooked him up. They also hooked him up to an EKG. There was nothing when they hooked him up to that. They shocked him again, and thankfully, when they shocked him, they, you know, it was, you could see the faint, you know, line starting to spike a little bit. You know, they said we have a faint pulse. They were giving him, you know, forcing oxygen as well. And then they got some low level breathing. At that point, I cleared myself out of the scene, obviously, and let the professionals take over, and, you know, found my son, and just went outside and waited for him, obviously, to leave. I still obviously wasn't sure in what state he was in. Like I said, I got word that he was, like I said, he was breathing. He had again, I guess, lost pulse and breath on the way to the hospital, regained it again. They got him in ICU. I think they flew him actually airlifted him to Pittsburgh. And like I said, he's stable. He's actually, the story does have a happy ending. He's stable, he's home. And from what I gather, they found that there was an underlying condition that had never been diagnosed before that led to all this.
Now, when CPR, people, when they hear the term CPR, thinking mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, something like that. Certainly, as this is all happening around you, I'm sure it was, and you have described this as kind of a surreal experience. Like, everything is happening so fast, but it's kind of happening, in slow motion.
Right.
You did not give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, which I know, is a concern, certainly in any situation, and a concern in the midst of a pandemic. But the training that you had, the CPR, administering the CPR, having the defibrillator, the AED machine there, those 10 minutes made all the difference from what the actions that you took until the paramedics arrived. Those 10 minutes made the difference in saving his life. And I know that was a very emotional experience for you. And I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, because I know one of the things that, as you look down at Dante, his expression was blank. He was just, there was no movement in his eyes.
Right.
Pupils fixed. That's the emotion of the whole thing is extraordinary, but that particular moment, I know, was extremely emotional for you as this is all going on.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you're in, luckily, to preface all this, I was prepared for the situation, for the situation in terms of the administering the CPR and the first aid. Once again, thank you to our training staff and the person who trained me this year, which was Dan Gerton. As we have spoken, I had Dan's voice in my head as I was going through the process of this, him kind of walking me through what it was that I needed to do. That kept me focused, but the situation at hand still, was directly in front of me. I knew what was happening. You could hear, family, you could hear his teammates. They cleared the gym of most people at this point, but there were probably, 20 people in there. And it was, it was a very emotional time for everybody in there, where you see, a very healthy, strong, sixth grader laying motionless for 10 minutes. And while I was in the process, he was right in front of me, and I couldn't stop looking at him. I couldn't stop, thinking about, being a parent. I have 3 kids, what they must be going through while this is happening. What if it was one of my sons, and you can't help but put yourself in everybody else's shoes, and you feel like, boy, this is, there's a lot on my shoulders here, and it's such, and I know, Jim, you and I spoke, it's such an important thing to be, to understand how to do this. This is, the statistics, after all this happened, I looked up in out of hospital CPR, when administered in a timely manner, there's a 45% success rate. And I mean, if you were to say to somebody, hey, there's a, there's a $10 million lottery, and oh, by the way, if you took this 2-hour class, you're going to have 45% more chance of winning this lottery.
Winning it. Yep.
Most people would do it, you know, and if we really stop and think, and I know we're all, you know, we're all in this together here, a human life, and it's not just one, because it's not just Dante, it's the parents, it's the brothers, it's this, you know, the siblings, it's so there's that domino effect, and you know, it just, life is so much more important, you know, and you know, as we spoke, it's just, it was a situation that, you know, in the moment, you know what's going on, but you're, you know, the training, you just kind of keep going through with what you've learned. But boy, after the situation, and I got in the car with Harry, much to his dismay, I'm sure, I just, the emotions, you know, kind of let go, and you know, I'm still one to cry at a sad, sappy movie.
That's okay. So am I. It's all right.
So he has seen me cry. But it was just a tough moment, and you know, looking at my son, and once again, just thinking, gosh, it could be anybody, you know, and it was, yeah, it was a very emotional thing. It still is. I think about him and his family constantly. I still have those images in my head about, and I have the noise, you know, in my head of
Sure.
what was going on around me. That's still there. You know, but like I said, obviously it ended well. And if it had not, you know, I mean, you're affecting so many lives. So to give yourself that chance, or to give somebody else that chance of survival, you know, it's just something that we all should, you know, have. What a great coach used to tell me, you know, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better player you are. And I think that is not just in playing and coaching, but that's just in general as a human being. The more tools you have in your toolbox, the more productive you can be, and the better you're going to be in society, the more you can help society, you know. And that's something that, like I said, I was, you know, fortunate enough to be in that situation, and help that family, and you know, and like I said, hopefully raise some awareness about CPR and first aid.
Well, you mentioned Dan Gurdon, and we certainly have an amazing training and health medicine staff at UMass Dartmouth. I've spoken with Dan, and he echoed what you said about the training aspect of it, is that as you are going through this, as you are performing all the steps that you learned, and you alluded to this earlier, that you heard Dan's voice in your head the entire time as you're going through it.
Yeah.
And your point is so eloquent and well taken. Of, it only took a couple of hours. It only took a couple hours out of your day, and you're impacting in your day, and what you do every day as a baseball coach. You're interacting with 35, 40 young men every day for, you know, about a 4-month period. It took 2 hours out of your day to learn this,
Right.
hone the skill set, and you probably never thought you would have to use it.
No.
But you're damn glad that you learned it and were able to in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what's the old phrase, to have and not need is far better than to need and not have. Yeah. I mean, once again, it was a typical, you know, Saturday for a lot of us parents, going to watch your kids play something or do something. And, you know, they're high level athletes, even though they're 6th graders. I mean, the team that Dante played for is the second ranked team in the country. I think he already had dropped about 25 points on our team up to that point. You know, so you're just,
we won't tell Harry that.
Well, he, trust me, he knows. He was covering for a little while. But you know, you're just there watching a game, and just, you know, you're being a parent, and you're relaxing and rooting for your kids, and you know, that in an instant everything changes. like I said, once again, I'm fortunate enough to have had the training and have had it, and have had they've done a fantastic job with us. And, I will be 100% honest. If I wasn't in this profession and it wasn't something that I needed to have and to be certified with, I honestly, I probably wouldn't have it.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate, but that's, now obviously going through this process, I mean, I always knew how important it was. But it just is, it really is. It's a gift. Quite honestly, it's a gift to everybody else, family, people you don't know. That, if you're investing that 2 hours into learning something like that, it really is a selfless gift to everybody else that you come in contact with, because you just don't know when it is ever going to be needed. Hopefully never, but you never know.
You never know when you're gonna have to take that tool out of the shed.
Right?
You hope you never do, but it's nice to have it on the shelf when you need it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You said that the story definitely does have a happy ending. I know that you spoke to Dante. I know
Yeah.
that you spoke to his parents. Can you give us an update on that conversation, how he's doing? And you formed a bond with this family for their forever.
Yeah, no, it was great. I was able to, thanks to my tech savvy sixth grader, I was able to track, right, track an acquaintance of the family down. They have a GoFundMe page. And I just reached out to the person who was the administrator of that page. I sent him a quick email and just let him know who I was, and just wanted to check in at that point. And within a half hour, Dante's mom called me. And so I had a really nice conversation with her and Dante, and then a little bit later in the day, Dante's dad called me as well, and had a really nice conversation with him. And they're all doing well. They were just extremely gracious. Dante's a cutie. He's about 6'3", but has the voice of about a 5-year-old, which was really cute when I spoke to him. And like I said, the conversation that I had with them it was really nice. And it's, once again, you can't help but think what their life might have been like, what that Saturday would have been like if things were different. And,
Exactly.
those are the things obviously that I keep thinking about when I kind of reflect back on this situation.
Well, you talked about the training that you received from Dan.
Mhm.
And certainly all of our coaches go through that training. But for people watching who may not have access, obviously having access in a professional setting in higher education. But for those watching this that are inspired, and we hope so many people are inspired to get training. What would you suggest that they pursue? The American Red Cross, the local boards of health, firefighters, etc. Where would you think would be a good starting point for someone to get local training?
Yeah, no, I would assume to start with the Red Cross. And I'm guessing that from there, things you are going to be directed from there to something much more local. But I mean, like I said, it's just a matter of getting on, the computer. And like I said, starting to do a search. I'm fairly certain that there are things out there on a very regular basis in terms of classes that you can go take. And once again, it is just so important. I often, it's been a couple weeks now, but I think about the fact that what if I had not had that training and I stood there for those 10 to 12 minutes and then found out that he didn't make it.
Right.
I think every person would have felt some responsibility to that. And I don't think anybody would ever want to be in that situation. And it's just following a process. It was nothing that I did. I was following a process. I was following a plan that was laid out for me. And that's what I did, no more, no less. And, like I said, I just think it's really important for everybody, to have that type of training.
I couldn't have said it better, Coach. I don't think anybody could. Certainly an incredible story, an emotional experience, as you said, a happy ending. Certainly something that's going to impact you, your family, and the Green family forever. You have that indelible bond forever now.
Yeah.
That you're linked to this. We'll be happy to share, and I will work with Dan and Wendy and Jess and Kevin down at our office to share as much information as we can about where folks can obtain CPR training, both on campus and off campus. And I want to thank you so much for sharing this amazing story. And I know undoubtedly it's going to inspire so many others down the road after learning this. And I know we will check back as the spring goes along to see how Dante is doing and to see how Harry is doing. I know, certainly that was one of the things you talked about was, certainly making sure he was okay. But hopefully his basketball season continues to go well. I know you're headed back to Pennsylvania for another part of the tournament. So wish you safe travels. And again, I can't thank you enough for your time today and sharing this amazing story.
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. And thank you for helping me get the word out in terms of the importance of getting trained in CPR and first aid.
No question. It's the best. It's a short amount of time that can truly save a life.
Absolutely.
And that's the best lesson of all. But thank you again. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.